Hey y'all, welcome to another video on Safety Track Time. If you don't know, we currently just experienced devastating conditions from Hurricane Beryl, and yeah, the whole Manchester, which is the parish I live in, is currently out of power. So with that said, I'm outside. I'm at an internet cafe right now, doing a recording. Yeah, there's literally no power in Manchester. The only power that is available are the few, places, business places that have generators. So yeah, literally the whole parish is out of power. But still, track and field continues. The world does not stop. And I really want to get into some results that I didn't get to talk about, after the race ended. And this was because mainly I was focused on, the Jamaican trials. But I really want to get back into the American trials, and let's talk about that women's 200 meters. Now, clearly, coming out of that, the results are Gabby Thomas walking away with the win with a 21.81 seconds. Then Brittany Brown was second with a 21.90 seconds. And in third place was Mackenzie Long. Happy for her, 21.91 seconds to take that third place spot. Now, we all know what happened to her in her semi, sat in the blocks and didn't make it through to the next round. She was definitely one of the athletes that I had making it potentially in the women's 100 meters. It didn't happen, but she definitely came back in the 200 meters and made the team. So yeah, congratulations to all the girls that came out and did a big one. But surprisingly, as you can clearly realize, I didn't call one particular name, and that is Shacarri Richardson. Now, going into the season, I was saying, hey, for me personally, based on the moves I see Shacarri Richardson making, she is definitely one of those athletes that will make the team, and not just make it. In my opinion, based on it, I see her, really targeting the 200 meters. She could, potentially go to the USA trials and even defeat a Gabby, Abby, whoever turns up, and walk away with a double, because I was considering the 100 meters and the two, and I was like, she could potentially walk away with a double. But it seems here she runs in fourth, 2.16 seconds. That's literally her placing in the race. Now, out of that, I see, or I did see a few things swirling around, but I did watch the race trackies, and these are my thoughts as it relates to why Shacarri Richardson failed in her attempt to qualify for the team. Now, there are a couple of things. The first things that I want to point out, and guys, if you're hearing any noise in my background, as I said, I'm outside, I'm out on the road, I'm in, a business place, so I apologize. My apologies for the noise in the background, but yeah, we continue. Right, so the first thing I really want to point out was her round management. That was the first thing that stood out to me, because I believe in Kingston when the news came to me, and I was asking, hey, so what time did she run? Because clearly the other athletes would have had to dip below 22 seconds to match up with Shacarri Richardson and beat her out. Well, I got the news she ran at 22.16 seconds, and I was like, hold up, at 22.16 seconds. No, clearly I would have been following each round prior to her, running in that finals, and I knew she was running sub 22. So let's go to her heat and her semi. In her heat, she ran at 22 point, well, not 22, at 21.99 seconds, and in the semi, she ran at 21.92 seconds. So she ran sub 22 in both the heats, and got to the final and had zero legs literally to take her around the track. So she ended up again in the finals running at 22.16 seconds. Now, the first thing that stood out to me, as I said, was this is clearly poor round management from her, because even when we go back to look at who she ran against and the closest persons to her in each her heat runs, you would say maybe she had to go that hard, but really and truly she didn't have to, because in her semi the closest person to her was Jenna Prandini, and she ran at 22.26, and then we had in the heat and in the semi she ran at 21.92, right? And then in the heat she ran at 21.99. The closest person to her was Abby with a 22.29. So in both those races, Shacarri didn't have to go that hard, didn't have to put out that much effort, and in my opinion, she could have saved her legs for the final where she needed to put it down, and clearly missed out. And if she had saved her legs, she could have definitely made it in, because the times ran in the final were not much faster than what she already produced. So the 21.90 and the 21.91 is just a hundredths of a second or a few hundredths of a second faster than her 21.92 she did in the semi. So if she had managed her rounds the way you typically do, which is go from slower to fastest, right? She would have definitely made it in my opinion. I even saw the same problem with Gabby, because Gabby blasted at 21.78 in her heat, in her semifinal, sorry. And I was wondering why when there's nobody in the race. But then I started to say to myself, well, maybe she's in, 21.6/21.5 shape. Clearly not happening in the final. She was only able to manage at 21.81. But again, I think, for these Americans, they have to really learn how to, round manage. I mean, if you're in a race where everybody's going fast, because you typically find sometimes where semifinals end up being faster than the finals because everybody's trying to make it through. So you tend to see a lot of personal bests and so forth heading into a finals. But this wasn't the case for these athletes. They were going way too hard, way too soon when they didn't need to. And clearly in the finals, for a few of them, were not able to live up to the expectation. And Shacarri Richardson, biting the dust here in the women's 200 meters and not making it through. Unfortunately, as I said, she was a bronze medalist from the World Championships in 2023. So definitely she had it within her to make this team, but she did not. But there's another thing that I want to point out, which was interesting coming out of the race, that a lot of people, I believe, were talking about. And I thought to myself, this is a very, very interesting take, because my sister pointed this out to me some time ago. And since, people are using this as an excuse, I'm going to talk about it now. So back in 2000, I want to say 23, she went to Kenya and she ran this 200 meters where she apparently shut it down from maybe 40 meters away from the finish line, right? And she ran ridiculously fast. And I remember coming out of that race, a lot of people were saying, hey, oh my God, just imagine how much faster she'd have went if she didn't shut it down. But my sister said to me, hey, Sha'carri didn't shut it down in that race. She didn't have any more to give and clearly just stopped running, right? And she's pointed out a few other athletes to me that keep doing this, meters away from the finish line, where they apparently slow down. And she keeps saying, hey, they're not slowing down, they literally have nothing more in their legs and they just have to stop. But clearly they're giving you the impression that they're slowing down, but that's not what's happening. Them just not have no more coming out of that race. And when I looked at the Shacarri race, not only did she, was behind off the bend, which is surprising. Gabby led off the bend, but towards the end of the race, you vividly saw her shut it down, and persons were like, oh, well, she was apparently, making way for a Mackenzie Long. I was like, people, y'all need to stop. Y'all need to stop. Sha'carri didn't have any more in her legs, and it's starting to make me look back at a few more races that I was watching of her, believing that, hey, she had much more to give based on where she shut it down, thinking that, hey, she literally hit max at that particular point and had nothing more to give, and that is why she shut it down. And my sister was saying this to me from a long time ago, and I've been watching the signs and I've been, agreeing with her and saying, hey, I see your point, I get your point. I just haven't brought it to y'all on the channel because I was actually hoping that she'll come on one day and say her thoughts herself, because y'all know I don't really like to regurgitate other people's opinions. But hey, since she's not going to come on and talk about it, I decided to, hey, make mention of it here. So yeah, she's been pointing it out for a while now, that these athletes that you see shutting it down from way out, it's not that they have so much more left in their legs potentially to give in the race and they could have gone so much faster. No, they've actually hit a wall and they couldn't go any further, and that is why you see them cruise through the line, right? So that particular thought process that persons have as relates to why Sha'carri ran the way she ran at the USA Championships, I suppose, even though that happened, I believe, after the line, because I was watching it and I'm like, hold up, where she shut it down, Mackenzie Long was already clear she was not going to get anywhere close to Mackenzie Long in this race. So I attribute it to a few things. One, as I said, poor race round management from Shacarri Richardson, and also second as well, the fact that, hey, she didn't have any more in her legs. So when you see these athletes, Shacarri is one. There's another Jamaican that my sister keeps harping on me about that keeps doing it, and I'll save it for another video. But she's that athlete is another one that my sister keeps pointing out to me. But I'll save it for another video, as I said. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. So Sha'carri doesn't make the 200 meter team. It was surprising to me, but then watching how things transpired, not so surprising as well. Let me know your thoughts. Like the video, of course, and subscribe. I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.